Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and I am Dexion the Gamer, and today we are going to be checking out and reviewing RoadCraft. It's a game that just came out recently. It's based off of another game called, I think it's SnowRunner, which I never got a chance to get into, but I'm going to get a chance to get into this today. So we're going to go over our settings, and we're going to be starting off with everything on the highest video setting here. So basically it's just the ultra preset with everything on, including mirrors, and we are going to be starting at 4K native resolution, and we're going to be using our native render resolution. And specifically here, if you look at the notes, it says native game renders at display resolution without upscaling, using just the temporal anti-aliasing part of the selected resolution upscaling algorithm. So I'm not sure if that's going to be just native TAA or DLAA, but it could be DLAA because I don't notice the crazy ghosting, and you can just easily change it to quality, balance, performance. So it's probably DLAA. So in any case, we are going to be starting the game from there. So let's check this game out and see what kind of statistics we can get out of it. Alright, so starting off with our DLAA or TAA native, you're going to be getting at about 70 frames per second with a gentle overclock on the RTX 5080. And let's see if I can just spot ghosting or anything like that. Not really. So it most likely is DLAA, but then again, don't quote me on that. I have not gotten a chance to find the documentation on that. But so far so good. So this game does not use any form of ray tracing or path tracing, anything like that. Not that I can tell, or not that I know of. And even if the setting was baked into the game, I still can't tell. Texture quality looks good. I do see some pretty interesting physics going on. When you're going over muddy terrain or water or anything like that. And you know, people have really enjoyed the previous version of this game, the SnowRunner version. I think that's with the semis.
Welcome.
So
the good news is you're in charge now.
So far so good.
Bad news is the storage and allocation of resources are all on you. So use them wisely. And remember, a penny saved is a penny earned. For the company. Well, on to your next job. Storm's rolling in, and we need to build a flood wall before it does. Before it rolls in, I mean. Storm seldom builds walls. First, we need to plot a route from the base to the phosphate plant. Once we do that, we can deliver the crane parts to make the wall.
okay, so I'm gonna have to plot a route here. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So yeah, looks like they're typical reflections, nothing crazy. This is obviously a mock-up of what looks like a Ford F-250. It's definitely built Ford tough. But anyways, so we're getting at about 70 frames per second. It's kind of similar to what you saw on GeForce Channel's experience in the game. So they probably had an overclocked FE running the game. And also no frame time spikes of any sort. The game runs incredibly smooth. And yeah, I am playing this with a controller. I don't, you know, anything that has driving mechanics in the game, I'm not gonna play with the mouse and keyboard. I just don't see why I would do that. when everything fits gracefully on a controller. So in any case, yeah, so far so good. Now I cannot get latency because this game probably uses not latex. Whoa, this game probably uses reflex, and it turns it off once you're not using frame generation. So I can't get a latency reading out of this, but from what I can tell, something like this, you're not really gonna need a whole bunch of fast latency. It's a driving game. Controls are delayed. I mean, you can't just whip around a Ford F-150 like it's on Forza when you're doing construction projects, right? So, and yeah, in any case, 70s frames per second here. VRAM usage at 4K native is 10.4 gigs, which is excellent. Really staying underneath that 12 to 13 gig that I usually see on this card when you max out at 4K, and that's before you include Framegen. So 71, 72 frames per second. Let's switch on DLSS quality and see what we can get from there, and see if our image remains just as sharp as it is now. Alright, so I just enabled quality DLSS, and yeah, so actually it looks like here, even if you use native, it is using DLAA. It's just not specifically saying DLAA, but obviously that would be native. So quality DLSS, here we go. Okay, so everything still looks super sharp, and honestly it probably looks even more stable, the image, than it did before. Just twirling around the camera, everything is super smooth, getting over 100 frames per second now. Quality did not go down one single bit. Everything still looks sharp. All the textures still look really sharp. Even off at the distance, everything still looks good. The trees aren't flickering or looking weird or anything like that. And you know what? That's actually one thing I can say that's good about NVIDIA. What they do now with DLSS 4 is basically you can... Yeah, so we're going to switch to that. So basically you can keep the same visual quality that you have at native with DLSS quality. So you're basically getting free 30% performance without losing a single notch in image quality if you're running at 4K. Now, I can't say the same thing about 1080p or 1440p because you're at a lower pixel density and your eyes are probably going to be able to see a little bit of a loss in quality. But at 4K, DLSS quality, it's a no-brainer. Just use it every time. That should be native for this point. You really don't need DLAA at all. But no, that's a hot take. It's another discussion for sure. So switching back to our big rig here. Yeah, just looking at everything looks nice and sharp. I don't notice any crazy aliasing or a loss in image quality. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch down to DLSS balance. I'm going to see if I can notice a difference there. Alright, so we are back at DLSS balanced, and I really can't tell a difference, guys. Just looking at the tractor here, it's really hard for me to tell a difference. And so our frame rate went up maybe 10% on top of, yeah, maybe 10 to 15% of what we had it at before. It was hovering at about 99 frames per second. Now it's peaking at about 114 or so. And yeah, everything still looks great. Even way off into the distance here with this tree that's kind of over on the top right side here, it looks great. The mountains back there look really high textured. And I'm sitting pretty close to the screen right now because I am talking into the microphone, which is a little bit closer. If I were to sit back further away, it would be even harder to spot any differences. So yeah, this is a win as well. DLSS is balanced. Everything is looking good. and we're just going to just drive around a little bit here. So I'm liking it so far, and you know, there is a co-op mode in this game as well. Haven't gotten a chance to load that up yet. This is kind of a early review of this game. So let's see. Yeah, so far so good. So let's go down to DLSS performance, and I'm hoping I'm going to be able to finally see a loss in quality. I'm just going to leave it right here. We put the brake on, put it on, and yeah, we get this shot right here. Looking at the textures, let's go down to performance and see what we can see here. All right, so now we are at DLSS performance at 4K. Everything's still maxed on ultra settings, and oh my goodness, guys! I honestly still can't. Maybe the ground looks a little more softer, but the actual equipment, those are here. I can't tell a difference. Look at the tires. The tires still look great. The shovel part of it still looks really, really high quality. Off into the distant, trees look good. Okay, maybe the mountains look a little bit softer. Maybe they look a little bit softer, but they still look actually pretty decent as well. And even look here, DLSS quality does such a good job. I mean, we got a little bit of a bush here that's closer to the screen, closer to the camera, and it's in front of the machine here, and it's not creating a crazy effect or anything like that. It's blending in really well and blending out, and it's not messing up the overall image quality. So yeah, DLSS performance, I mean, if you just want to get, you know, 120 frames a second or so, that's great. But I'm going to do a real quick back and forth of quality. Let's put that brake on. Quality versus performance. Just using this still image here with the ground. I'm going to see if I can spot a difference. Okay, so we are back at quality now. Actually, no, we're not. Yeah, we are. We're back at quality now. The frame rate just looked the same. So yeah, we're back at quality now, and no, I can't tell the difference. So, you know, that's interesting. I'm going to go back to DLSS performance to see what that frame rate changes to, because I didn't see a change there. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So back at DLSS performance, and honestly, maybe a teeny tiny bit of a softening going on, and that's if you put your face in front of the screen. So really great job with DLSS 4.0. I'm really loving that so far, and honestly, that's a main selling feature of the Blackwell generation. Not even Blackwell, if you can find an Ada Lovelace card at a decent price, it's a great selling feature. DLSS 4.0 basically is at the point of being a hack, just making the image look just as good as if you were to just leave it at the native setting at 4K. Going down to 1440p, you might see some changes, obviously because of the lower pixel density, but you know, it's a really good improvement over DLSS 3. And you know, AMD, they really did come a long way with FSR 4 as well. Next generation, who knows? I honestly think next generation is going to be a really hard battle between NVIDIA and AMD. They're really going after each other, and because NVIDIA has kind of dropped the ball this generation, AMD just started running like their lives depended on it, which is great. Competition is great. We need competition in this space. If you don't have competition, NVIDIA will just price everything at $10,000. And Jensen will walk up on stage telling everyone that, you know, oh, where's your $10,000 to $12,000 battle station? You don't have it today? Anyways, I digress. So back to the game. Everything's looking great. DLSS quality, DLSS performance, it all looks very good. So I'm just going to go back to DLSS performance. Sorry, DLSS quality. And then I'm going to activate Framegen. And how to work Framegen in the game, you have to switch modes between the NVIDIA app. So if you want to use Framegen 3X or 4X, you have to go to the NVIDIA app and override it. So let's just take a look at what we can see here. All right, 150 frames per second, looking really, really good. So what's interesting is I still can't see latency, but just using the button test here, yeah, who cares really about latency for a game like this? You're not gonna have to make split-second decisions. So 150 frames per second at DLSS quality, and everything looks super, super sharp. Probably a little bit sharper than performance, which is good. So to me, this is just an easy win for a game like this here. You see, this is a nice scene here with high-quality textures and the rocks, the dirt, and everything. Framegen did not add any kind of softening to the image, and the frame time doesn't look spiky or anything like that. VRAM usage at DLSS quality with 2x Framegen is 9 gigs. GPU power is staying around 300 watts, a little bit under that, so that's great. And so what we're going to do is take it to DLSS balanced and see what we can get there. All right, so we're DLSS balanced with 2x Framegen. And getting back to the game, yeah, the quality and the textures still look really, really sharp. It's really, really good. And our frame rate didn't seem to jump up too much, if at all, which is interesting. The GPU power has gone down a little bit, and now the GPU usage is down to the 80s, 79%. So, you know, I'm not sure what's going on there. Our CPU usage is at about 15 to 17%. Usually if there's a CPU bottleneck, you'll see the CPU go up to, you know, 45, 30, 50%, something like that, but it's not. So I'm wondering why the GPU is starting to relax here. That's really interesting. So, you know what, I think it may actually have something to do with my global VSync setting. Now that I think about it, I did turn that on. So what I'm going to, so you know, that's another thing I wanted to talk about actually. When you are trying to max out your frame rate, and I hope that, you know, as you're playing the game, you're not playing with a Reba statistics server or, you know, overlay, unless you're just trying to test out stuff. If you're just playing, you don't need VSync off, sorry. You don't need VSync off. You can just leave it at your monitor's VSync, which would be 160 on my case. So I think what's happening is Reflex is limiting the frame rate to 153, which they usually limit the frame rate to a few below your cap to get the best latency and the best smoothness. So the game is super smooth here. There's absolutely no screen tearing for me. But what will happen is the GPU will work less because Framegen can only work at an even multiplier when there is an FPS cap. Let me explain that. So for example, right now the frame rate is 153. So what the GPU is doing is it's actually dividing that by 2. And I'm just going to take out my calculator. 153 divide that by 2, so that's 76.5 frames per second that the GPU is locked at right now. So that's probably why the usage is down to 84%, because the GPU is using 76 frames per second and multiplying that by 2. Since you can't go over your frame rate cap, the Framegen has to stay locked at the multiplier. So for example, if you use 3x Framegen, your FPS will stay the same and your GPU will work even lighter. So if you want to see that, I'm going to go into the NVIDIA app eventually and get to that point. But so let me first do this. I'm going to just go out and come back in with VSync off globally, and we're going to see what the frame rate actually does go up to. Oh, okay, so we are back, and here we go. So we are now running back up to 99% GPU utilization. And so yeah, it was supposed to be at 174 frames per second using I believe we were at DLSS balanced. And let's just go over the settings real quickly here. So yeah, so that's DLSS balanced, DLSS quality. I'm going to just run that real quick. And now okay, so DLSS quality will get you up to 159, 160 frames per second, which I would probably just leave it here. That's a great frame rate for for the highest quality settings possible on Framegen 2X. So let's see what we can get. Framegen 2X performance. Oh, slow down, buddy. All right. So we're going to see what we can do with Framegen 2X on DLSS performance, and I'll see you there. All right, so we're going to be at DLSS performance with Framegen 2X, and we just got that set up here. So now we are at 190 frames per second, just moseying around here with our big boy tractor, and yeah, a great experience. Don't notice any drop in visual quality as of yet, and everything is looking really, really good. So I mean, playing this game at 4K is going to be a pretty decent experience. Visually, everything looks so sharp, and you're just going to be able to enjoy that visual quality. So, you know, it's amazing what we can do with games that don't have ray tracing and robbing you of like 20 to 30% performance. And, you know, honestly, probably don't need ray tracing in a game like this. It does pretty good on its own. And yeah, I would consider this a super win as far as a game that's pretty well optimized. I'm not sure what engine this game is using. It's some proprietary engine from Saber Interactive, but everything so far so good. No crashes, no weird artifacts or anything like that. And so we're just going to continue down the line, and now we are going to start going crazy with the frame rate. And I'm going to go into the NVIDIA app and activate the Framegen 3X and restart the game. And we're going to be starting off at DLSS quality. I'll see you there. All right, so we are back, and we are going to be using Framegen 3X with the override from the NVIDIA app here. And let's take a look at what our performance looks like with that as we continue here. Also love a game that loads up really quickly. Yep, there we go, loading complete. And I play this game on a SATA SSD, so it's not like blazing fast Gen 5 PCIe or anything like that. And apparently that doesn't even matter with games in the first place. You might get a little bit of a faster loading time, but as far as frame rate, doesn't matter. It's been tested many times, whether it's using a 7 gig transfer rate or a 500 megabyte transfer rate from SATA. You're gonna get the same frame rate, and yeah, you might load your game up another 2 seconds quicker or something like that. Because loading games isn't as simple as transferring data. It's GPU working, it's the CPU working, it's your system RAM working, a lot of stuff moving in and out of different resources. But anyway, back to the game. 232 frames per second now with DLSS quality, Framegen 3X. And yeah, this is just really, really nice to see. With Framegen 3X, I'm not noticing any. Yeah, that's just my button test here, so yeah, I'm not noticing any bad frame dips, I should say, or bad latency just from the seat of the pants feel. Still can't get the latency measurement for some reason, even though it's got to be using reflex. Don't know what's going on with that, but everything looks good. Everything looks really, really good. It's really responsive. You know, there's no weird ghosting with the tractor here or the wheels. That's, you know, another thing you want to look for is something like wheel spin. If you just look at the wheels with your eyes going backwards, it doesn't look weird. So that's really good. And yeah, I can really, really enjoy this maxing out the frame rate here. But we're just getting started. So now we are going to go down to DLSS. I'm just going to do a performance just to max out the frame rate on Framegen 3X. So I'll see you there. Alright, so we are back at DLSS 3X Framegen with DLSS performance. 263 frames per second now. So can your monitor even handle that refresh rate? Who knows? But as far as the image quality, okay, I think I can notice a little bit of a softening of the image here with DLSS Framegen and DLSS performance enabled. So that is something to keep in mind. It's not quite as sharp as it was before. Don't get me wrong, it is nowhere near muddy or grainy or anything like that. Everything still looks really, really good. Even that building off in the distance, I can tell that it's still using high-res textures. And it's just my eyes are kind of used to it, seeing any teeny tiny bit of a difference now. And I'm talking about a difference that you normally won't see. So what we're going to do is use Framegen ×4. We're going to go back to the NVIDIA app, and we're going to do that. Alright, so we're back on the NVIDIA app here, and simply just going to your driver settings, and you're going to go to, let's see here, where is it? Here we go. DLSS override frame generation. So we're at 3x, we're going to be using X4. And the game does use the latest DLSS 4.0 for the upscaling algorithm. And that's it. X out of NVIDIA app and get back into the game, and let's see what that looks like. Alright, so we are going to be starting off at DLSS quality for our last run here. And let's continue. Alright, so we are back, and now I'm starting to notice some artifacting. If you can see in the top left here, and I'm not sure if it's the RTSS overlay doing this or if it's just something from the game. Yep, I saw a little bit of a blip there. So, okay, so yeah, I am starting to see kind of instability in the frame rate here. Usually what I do is to test this is I just pan the camera around as fast as I can take it. Let me see if the mouse can do it faster. Yeah, the mouse can do it faster, but I can't really see it like that. So I'll just pan the camera around, and I'm starting to notice like a teeny bit of frame tearing. It's not really frame tearing, but it's yeah, I don't know if you guys just saw that like a second ago. It's like a slight artifacting, a blip. It's like the frames are trying to mesh together or something. Let me turn off my statistics overlay. Yeah, so now I can see like the interface is blinking in and out ever so, you know, subtly. Wait, is it still happening? Well, it's not happening anymore, but it's something to do with the overlay. So when you have Framegen 4X on here in the overlay, you will run into some. Okay, so now I am definitely seeing some ghosting on the UI on the bottom right. If you guys, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see that on YouTube, but there is just an ever so small amount of ghosting, especially if I go up and down on the camera here with the UI. You probably have to zoom in and slow the footage down to really see that, but it is there. And if I put the overlay back on, I don't know if you guys can see it on YouTube, but there is a weird artifacting going on there. Really high frame rate though, but probably gonna go tell you guys to pass on this one. Artifacts are a no-no. If you're gonna get artifacts in the game, then it's not gonna be a good experience. So we're gonna cap it at Framegen 3X, which to me is a sweet spot for most titles. Now, don't get me wrong, Framegen 4X worked great in Doom Dark Ages, so I don't know what's going on here. And as far as edge stability and everything else like that, it looks okay. Now I'm starting to notice that the artifacts have calmed down, but you know, that's just something to keep in mind, guys. And the UI, you can still see it sizzling on the edge there if you do that. So it's really good frame rate though, 285, 286. Let's just take it to performance and see what happens there. Alright, so DLSS performance, Framegen ×4, and yeah, you're hitting over 300 frames a second at this point. And if you are gonna turn off your overlay, which I would hope you do, that weird artifacting doesn't seem to be there. But just keep an eye on that artifacting on the bottom right with the UI. And if you can just ignore that, then you can play the game like this. As far as response time, can't really tell too much of a difference than, you know, just DLSS X2, honestly. So response time is still really good, I will say that. With that being said, I'm just going to keep it here. Obviously 1440p is going to fly away with frame rates in this game, and if I were you, even on a 1440p monitor, I would use DLSS just to get the highest texture quality possible that you can get. So with that being said, thank you all so much for hanging around for this entry here. Yeah, you can really see that artifacting now. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I can see it, and that's just no way. So yeah, my recommendation is Framegen 2 or 3X DLSS quality. Just keep it there to max out your frame rates. Then you'll have a blazing fast, crispy experience. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking around, and I'm just going to leave it there. Catch you all in the next one. Peace.